Hey, what's up YouTube? Down in the Smartphone Guy coming back at you with another video, and tonight I'm excited to bring to you my full review of the ZTE Blade X Max. And as you can see, this is a phone that is a Cricket wireless exclusive phone, at least at the moment. And before I get too far into this, let me mention that if you're new to this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. So first of all, as I mentioned, this is a Cricket wireless exclusive, and you can pick it up right now at Cricket Wireless if you port in your phone number for $100 or $150 if you are upgrading to a new device. So with that being said, you can see here that I'm actually using this on T-Mobile. So I actually got it unlocked on eBay for I think $2 maybe is what I paid for it, and yeah, so I'm using it with a T-Mobile SIM card. But as you can see up here, I get regular LTE coverage, which has been fantastic with the device. So let's talk about my daily usage and whether I think this phone is worth those prices. And right away, I will just say yes, it definitely is worth it. It is a phone that I think is definitely worthy of your consideration if you are a Cricket Wireless customer. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that if you are someone who doesn't necessarily like big phones, this is definitely not a small phone. So this is a 6-inch full HD display. It is a beautiful display, but it also is not a very small phone. You can see we have decent sized bezels at the top and bottom because we have those capacitive buttons at the bottom. So our home button, back, and recent apps. And so because of that, you know, it's a sizable phone for sure. So keep that in mind if you're someone who doesn't really like larger phones. But probably if you're watching this, you're someone who probably doesn't mind them a whole lot. So let's go ahead and jump into the build quality since we're kind of already talking about it. So number one, obviously, is it's a large phone. I'm going to slide that off to the side. But in terms of the build, we got an all plastic build. We got kind of a plasticky back, but it's pretty glossy, and so it almost has like a glass look to it. In fact, if you weren't feeling it, you probably could confuse it for some of those newer glass back phones. But it definitely has just a little bit of give, so you can tell that it's not. But it looks pretty nice, I think, and it has a decent amount of grip to it as well. It's not super slick as you would think. I will say that I've been using it without a case, and you can probably see just a couple micro scratches there, nothing too bad. But I've been using it without a case, which, you know, I wouldn't recommend. So we have a fingerprint sensor on here, the back, which works really, really well. In fact, it's fantastic. It might not be the world's fastest fingerprint sensor, but it's still quite fast. 13 megapixel camera on the back. We also have our flash. On the side, we have our power button, which has a nice little ridge to it. So you can definitely easily find that. We have our volume rocker. We have our plastic sides here, so they almost could fool you for being metal, but they're not. We have our 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, microphone up on the top, microphone on the bottom, and Type-C for charging, which is fantastic. We have our speaker on the back as well. Got our Cricket Wireless and ZTE branding as well. And then there's our SIM tray. Our SIM tray doubles as a micro SD card expansion slot there as well. So pretty cool. So with that being said, let's go ahead and fire on the display. Like I mentioned, 1080p full HD display, and it is definitely beautiful. So full HD on a 6-inch display, it looks fantastic. And not only does it look fantastic, but it gets very bright. Whoops. Well, let's go ahead and slide that off to the side. But you can see here that it gets very, very bright, far brighter than you'd probably ever really need. Even in the brightest of days, you'll have no problem seeing this display, at least in my experience. So that's been really nice. So display is easily a huge thumbs up. So let's go ahead next and talk about the performance. So in day-to-day performance, I would say overall the phone runs pretty well. It's using the Snapdragon 435 processor clocked at 1.4 gigahertz. I always have this issue with Geekbench. And it doesn't really matter what phone it is, but I always have to like close it out and then bring it back up, and see, it always works. All right, so let's go into the history so I can show you the multi-core score here. So you can see here we got a single core score of 644 and a multi-core score of 1800. So that probably doesn't mean a whole lot unless, of course, you know, you want to know how does it work from day to day. And I will say that for the most part, apps work pretty well. There are a couple apps that I've had a few little issues with here and there. So like, for instance, this one could be a bad one for some people, but YouTube, for some reason, every once in a while I'll be watching a video and then all of a sudden the screen goes black. And it's really strange, like in the middle of a video while I'm watching it, just all of a sudden goes black, and then about 2 seconds later it starts the video again. So that was been one little software issue. So ZTE, if you're watching this, definitely check that out, because longer videos, for some reason I've had that issue. The other issue that I've had with it, and this is a really strange one, this is more of a software issue again, but like I said, performance wise overall is very good. But let's go ahead and turn Bluetooth on, because this is where you'll see it. So I think it's already hooked up to a Bluetooth device. And I'm going to go into my battery settings here so you guys can see this. So I'm at 24% right now. And look at that. So that's actually the first time I've turned the Bluetooth on today, because I knew that that was going to happen. But let's go into screen on time. You can see screen on time has been very good. We'll talk about the battery in a little bit. But really strangely, as soon as you turn Bluetooth on, all of a sudden it starts consuming all of the battery. Now, it doesn't actually do it. It doesn't actually consume the battery really fast. It just displays that it does. And that is really strange. And I have read around to see if that's an issue that other people have experienced, and it is. So for some reason, you turn the Bluetooth on and all of a sudden the algorithm in the battery statistics show that it's just eating up your battery, even though it really isn't. So it's really strange, but that's been the other performance issue. But other than that, most apps I've had run very well. So like Facebook, YouTube, getting my emails, listening to music, all that has been very good. Those two little issues are the two that I will mention that I've had maybe just slight issues with. So software-wise, we are running Android 7.1.1. So if you go down all the way here, you can see there that it's running Android 7.1.1 with the March security patch. So that's really nice. We're very up to date. And in terms of the settings, not a whole lot of tweaks to Android 7.1.1. So that's one thing I really like about ZTE phones. They kind of leave Android alone, which is really nice. So there are just a few tweaks that I like. So down here, let's go into the display. So of course we have adaptive brightness, which you can see I have turned off. Of course I got battery percentage showing, that's nice. We have the press power button twice for camera. I actually turned that one off because it hasn't worked for me. So it's a nice option, but it hasn't been working for me, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. The ambient display I do keep on because I really like that. It will just wake the screen when you get a notification and show you your notification, similar like the Motorola phones will do. Then we have a pulse notification light, which actually, this little circle down here that's the home button actually acts as a notification light as well. So when you get a notification, it will light up and let you know that you have it. Now, it doesn't change colors, but at least it does it, which is kind of cool. So other little tweaks to Android, we have this My Pop button here. So I'll go ahead and turn that on so you can see here that I currently have it as a back button, but you can customize it in here. You can change it to kind of just about anything you want. And then if you expand it, you can touch a function and it will give you these other options to expand it as well. So we'll go ahead and use that and turn it off. Not something I used very much or really at all. And then of course we can connect it to a PC, but anyway, so not a whole lot of tweaks. I will also mention here that you can change the navigation buttons. So if you want this to be the back button and the recent apps button, or you can swipe it and change it up here. And so now this becomes my recent apps button. That's really confusing for me because I'm just not used to that. So I'm going to turn it back to what I want it to be. All right, so other than that, settings-wise, pretty much just stock Android, which I really like. Good job, ZTE. All right, next thing I want to talk about is the battery life. So battery life-wise, like I mentioned, the Bluetooth issue, it really doesn't eat up the battery, even though it says it does. But generally, I'm getting around 5 to 6 hours of screen on time, which I think is actually quite good. Especially considering how big of a display this phone has to power. So we have a 3400 milliamp hour battery, and it is displaying a very large 1080p display. And 5 to 6 hours of screen on time, generally what I would say, this is just kind of a general use. I will wake up in the morning, go to work, use it a little bit at work, not a whole lot, come home and use it very heavily. and do some social media, some YouTube, maybe watch some Netflix. And at the end of a night, this is pretty typical. I'll be right around 35%, maybe 30 to 35%. And then I wake up in the morning and I'm right around 20%. And then I charge it up in the morning. So that's kind of been my typical use. Easily a full day battery, I would say, for just about anybody. So that's awesome. Next thing I want to talk about is the cameras. So before I get into my thoughts on the camera, I definitely want you to check out a friend of mine, Grant S. He has a YouTube channel, and he did a very comprehensive look at the cameras on here. So definitely check out his video. I'll leave a link down in the description for that. Let's get it off that selfie camera. But in general, I would say that in good lighting, this is a great camera. So just a few pictures that I took of my family. I will go ahead and show these pictures and a few videos in here at the end of the video so you guys can check them out. But in general, I'd say in good lighting, fantastic camera. Now, when you get into lower light settings, that's where it's going to stutter. And definitely the back camera, I would say, is the 13 megapixel camera is good. The front-facing selfie camera, not quite as good. So I'll go ahead and show some of these pictures at the end of the video so you can see them in their full, glory. But one nice thing is that we can shoot in 1080p both in the front and the back, but we can only shoot at 30 frames per second. So maybe a slight weakness there with the camera. But like I said, I'll let you be the judge. I'll show some pictures at the end, and also definitely check out Grant's video on the cameras as well. So with that being said, the last thing we're going to take a look at is the speaker. So let's go ahead and go to YouTube, and we're going to look at all that stuff I look up. All right, so we're going to look at, let's look up, well, no, let's go into Google Play Music. Oh, I should have had this queued up. All right, so we're going to listen to a quick song here. I'm going to thumbs up. It's a popular song. Okay, so there's the speaker. Crank it up a little bit. Put it up to my microphone. Flip it down. Okay, don't want to listen to it too long. Don't want to get in trouble. All right, so with that being said, what I will say is that obviously the speaker being on the back is not the best location, but it is a very loud speaker. So that is a good thumbs up. I like the speaker. I just wish, obviously, that it were, placed either on the front or even bottom. Firing speaker would have been better. So I really wish companies would stop putting them in the back, but I'm sure for some reason there's a reason why they did it. But with that being said, I would say overall the speaker quality is quite good. So I want to share my final thoughts on this. So battery life and display are definitely two of the biggest thumbs up. I really like those two things on this phone. If I had to make some complaints, it'd maybe be that front camera, the 5 megapixel camera, isn't the greatest, but it's also not terrible either. Definitely for $100 to $150 phone, performs very well in terms of the cameras. But the performance wise, the one thing that I would say maybe is the issue is that there's just some little software bugs with certain apps that I've run into, like with YouTube, where after watching a video for so long, all of a sudden it turns black, and then I get just kind of like a little pause in the video where it's black, and I've seen that with other people, and then also that Bluetooth issue. So other than that, though, I would say this is definitely a fantastic device. If you're on Cricket Wireless and you're looking at upgrading, or even, maybe you just like the phone and you want to be able to get it unlocked, you can do that for like $2 on eBay. So fantastic little device. I definitely think it's worth picking up even with those little issues. I think ZTE has been very good about software updates when they see things like that. So hopefully they're watching and they can make those fixes. So with that being said, definitely check this out. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.